That's what Oprah Winfrey wants her legacy to be. But guess what? It's not.
What?
It's not Mrs. O.
Ooh.
Because you were snookered by the biggest liars in history. And you're now trying to backtrack on those lies because you know that your reputation was shot the moment that you allowed Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to try and bring down the British royal family with a tissue of untruths.
I tried so hard.
First, she reveals the interview. She hit back at suggestions that the couple didn't know what they were going to be asked. She then admitted that she had told Prince Harry and Meghan that this was all about a win-win. This is going to be good for you guys, and it's going to be good for me. So they sat down to film for the 3.5 hours, and Oprah thought that her career legacy was set. Instead, as we'll soon see, she's now desperately trying to explain why she encouraged Meghan Markle's lies rather than challenged them.
March 2021, 90 minutes of television that was supposed to change everything. An interview so explosive it was watched by an estimated 17 million people in the US alone and dissected in nearly every country on Earth. But 5 years on, something strange has happened. The narrative hasn't just faded. It's
They didn't know, obviously, anything that I was going to ask them, but I had said to them ahead of time, I'm going to try to cover everything. This interview took 3.5 hours. And as is always the case for me, I was just trying to carefully go through everything that had come up in the past.
No, you weren't. You were just admitting that you wanted it to be a win. You weren't talking about it being a win for truth or a win for journalism or a win for the British royal family. You were talking about it being a win for Harry and Meghan and for you.
Flipped. The same interview once hailed as a brave act of truth-telling is now, according to a growing wave of online commentary, being reframed as something else entirely. A calculated business move dressed up as vulnerability. Today, we're breaking down why public opinion turned, and why even
Trash Panda asking, why do you think she's bringing this all up now? Stephanie Sidley replies, because Harry and Meghan are backpedaling on the racism claims. But the royal grift ain't happy. Maybe I should post the full unedited interview on X, so we don't have a rewriting of history. Fuck you, Oprah. You knew what you were doing with this script.
Oprah herself appears to be quietly stepping back from it. Let's rewind. In early 2020, Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, moved to North America, and signed a string of major media deals. Netflix, Spotify, and eventually a memoir. By March 2021, they sat down with Oprah Winfrey.
Falls in love with the prince, and because of that, she has to lose her voice. But by the end, she gets her voice back.
I get another lecture from you, I'm gonna go crazy.
For what was billed as an unfiltered, no-holds-barred conversation. At the time, the framing was simple. Two people escaping a stifling institution, finally free to tell their story. Oprah, meanwhile, was positioned as the trusted confidant. The one person both sides felt safe.
This is in regards to, and you know it's what went viral. You know it's what went around the world. Were you silence or silenced? And Oprah is now trying to make this extraordinary argument. And I mean, I say extraordinary in the sense that it's totally not believable, that this action was designed to push Meghan Markle into whether she was actually telling the truth. You've done this job for a very long time. You don't do that. What you say is you say, oh, wow, Meghan, who told you couldn't speak? We need the names. We've got to call these people out. When did they say that? Who are you referring to? Are you sure? You know, the courtiers say they offered to help you and give you whatever you needed. But she didn't do that, did she? She made one movement, finger to her mouth, and she now claims that that gives her some type of journalistic integrity. I don't think so, Opes.
That trust was Oprah's brand. Decades of sit-downs with everyone from Michael Jackson to Lance Armstrong had built her reputation as the interviewer who gets people to finally tell the truth. But here's where the business arrangement theory starts to take shape. A theory that's picked up serious traction across YouTube.
I was silent.
Were you silent or were you silenced?
The latter.
Okay.
She's
Very
embarrassed.
nice. I don't think I've done it since. I don't know where the hell that came from. Whoop. Okay. I wanted to be clear. Was she silenced? Were people telling her not to talk? Were people... That's why I said that. I said it for clarification because I didn't want later to hear, well, no, it wasn't that. It really was that I was silenced. They wouldn't let me talk. So it was all for clarification.
Bullshit, Oprah. You've literally just said what you should have asked. Were people telling her not to talk? You didn't ask that. You didn't ask that. You played into a lie. And as a result, your legacy is now trashed, and you know it.
Commentary channels and Reddit threads over the past year. Critics increasingly argue this wasn't a spontaneous, emotional outpouring. It was reportedly a mutually beneficial transaction. On one side, Meghan was said to be looking to reset a public image that had taken a battering in the UK tabloids.
They play her this old clip from 2021 where basically during the pandemic, when people are locked in their homes, they're struggling to pay their bills, their businesses have been shut down, Oprah, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry sat around in a massive mansion, I believe owned by Rob Lowe, and complained about how hard their lives were. Now, this is when Meghan Markle stopped being relatable to anybody. People are locked in their homes. People are dying. Their family members are on life support, right, on incubators, and she's sitting there complaining how hard it was for her to live in a palace and be in the royal family eating crumpets and scones. And Oprah realized after that interview, in my opinion, because of all the reporting and all the lies that were debunked, Oprah realized she was used. Meghan Markle is a con artist, and she used Oprah Winfrey to launder her image.
On the other, Oprah was reportedly chasing what would become one of the most watched specials of the decade, reportedly negotiated and produced through her own production company in partnership with CBS. Commentators point out that CBS reportedly paid a substantial licensing fee for the special, with some outlets estimating figures north of...
She was gunning for this interview. She started poaching Harry and Meghan about a sit-down 6 months before they were wed. She was desperate to sit down with Princess Diana, kissing her butt, sitting across from her at Kensington Palace, trying to get Diana to give her an exclusive. Diana lovingly wrote her a note that was like, no way.
$7 million. Though neither CBS nor Oprah's team has ever confirmed an exact number publicly. Whatever the real figure, the framing itself is what changed. Not friend helps friend, but two brands make a deal. Some commentators go further, suggesting the emotional beats of the interview, the tears.
Wanted to sit down with the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, and they said, absolutely no way, that's beneath us. She got Fergie, which is convenient because I think Harry and Meghan are on the Fergie level. But this was a huge win for Oprah Winfrey, who'd been chasing legitimate members of the British royal family for an interview for decades.
Yeah.
The long pauses read differently now, in hindsight, than they did in the moment. To be clear, this is speculation and opinions circulating online, not a confirmed fact. Nobody involved has admitted the interview was scripted or staged. But the perception has shifted, and perception is what we're here.
She knows what the repercussions were. Ultimately, Prince Philip dies weeks later, and we understand that he was devastated over this interview in hospital while it aired. And at the time, I remember some of the headlines that people from the Sussex camp were saying that because he was in hospital, they shouldn't have to hold this interview, that didn't affect them. The poor man dies weeks later. It devastated Queen Elizabeth too. It made the last few years of her life very difficult to navigate. On top of the Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor saga, she had Harry and Meghan accusing her family of racism and bullying and not taking their mental health seriously.
To unpack. So why did the story change? A few reasons commentators point to. First, repetition fatigue. After the interview came the Netflix docuseries, then the memoir Spare, then more interviews. Critics argue that each new release repeated similar grievances, and audiences reportedly
This interview was historic. It changed the course of royal history. It changed the course of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's lives. And those of us who knew at the time, like you did, that what Oprah Winfrey was actually allowing was lies to be broadcast around the world in an attempt to bring down the British royal family. At the time, we called her out. But she was surrounded, Tash, by so much noise and so much wokery and so many people patting her on the back and saying, oh, well done. You've just changed change the royal family forever. What she didn't realize is that she hadn't done her job. But I think, Tash, as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have been exposed on such a grand scale, such a lengthy period now, Oprah has had to backtrack. And I appreciate that I think she's embarrassed. I think she's deeply, deeply embarrassed, and she wants to change the legacy of this interview.
Grew skeptical of a couple who said they wanted privacy while continuing to monetize their personal story across multiple platforms. Second, fact-checking backlash. Several claims made across the various projects were reportedly disputed or clarified afterward. Details around specific dates, meetings, or
The more you watched it, the more you thought, Oprah, come on, that's not true. Challenge that. Ask her. If she says there's racists in the royal family, who are they? You know, it was a remarkably uninquisitive interview, wasn't it?
Nothing's more compelling than watching a 40-year-old man complain that his allowance has been cut off.
By daddy.
I mean,
by daddy.
Daddy cut off his allowance at 40 years old. Daddy's no longer putting gas in the Range Rover. Daddy's no longer paying the phone bill. Oh, gosh, my sympathies are with you, child.
Yeah.
But, you know...
Heartbreaking.
Conversations. Even minor inconsistencies, once picked up by tabloids and commentary channels, became ammunition for a broader, they're not being fully honest narrative. Third, the business results didn't fully match the hype. Some of the couple's media deals reportedly underperformed expectations, and several projects were...
Winfrey is so powerful that when she sat down with Vanity Fair to do this, she could have easily said, this one's off the table, this one's off limits, because it is so controversial and it's not a great reflection of her. If I were Oprah Winfrey, I would have been like, I don't want to revisit this one.
Scale back or didn't materialize as originally announced. Commentators frame this as evidence that the authentic storytelling pitch may have always been, at least in part, a commercial strategy, one that's had mixed returns. None of this proves malicious intent. Business deals underperform all the time.
Oprah Winfrey, who was beloved by Black women across the country, could come on camera and rehabilitate her and make her this victim. This is during Black Lives Matter. You guys have to remember what was going on in 2020 and 2021. She really tried to use Oprah, and Oprah Winfrey has not said anything positive about her since then.
For reasons that have nothing to do with authenticity. But in the court of public opinion, underperformance plus repeated storytelling equals suspicion. Fair or not? Now here's where it gets interesting. Oprah Winfrey, arguably the most trusted interviewer in American media history, has reportedly been notably careful about...
Oprah does not like being played. She is a rich, bitch, whether I agree with her politics or not, or I like her that much, she is a boss. And she realized after that interview, these two are playing me. They played me. She sat in my face and lied.
How she references the 2021 interview in recent years. Commentators have noticed that in more recent public appearances, Oprah rarely brings up the Harry and Meghan interview unprompted. When asked directly by journalists, her answers are reportedly shorter, more measured, and noticeably less enthusiastic than the tone she...
I realized how successful she'd been. Here was a woman who was nothing. I mean, born, broken family, the whole thing, unknown actress, all the rest of it, becomes a global star, which is what she wanted. When she was about 9 or 10, she said to her father, I want to be famous, I want to walk down the red carpet. And she has now done that. And she's calculated that she could be a great success, and by marrying Harry.
She struck immediately after the original broadcast. Some have interpreted this as reputational risk management. As skepticism toward the couple has grown, and as their professional ventures have faced reported setbacks, critics argue Oprah may be trying to put daylight between her own brand and theirs without ever explicitly...
She had one amazing ability, which was to find a man who needed her.
Oh.
And she played him brilliantly. The actress was sensational.
...disowning the interview. To be fair, there's a simpler explanation too. It's an old story, and public figures naturally stop discussing 5-year-old headlines because there's nothing new to say. We should hold both possibilities in mind, rather than assuming the more dramatic one is automatically true. Still, The optics matter.
It's horrible what Meghan has done. And I just feel really sad for the monarchy at times, because I know that's what Meghan has in her sight, to do things to people like Catherine, things that came out in that book, about calling them racist. Like, she takes the most egregious thing you can say about a person.
They're in a media environment where every gesture gets dissected. And right now, the dominant online reading is that Oprah is quietly stepping back from a project she once championed loudly. On paper, it's a simple lifestyle appearance: cooking, chatting, promoting her food and lifestyle brand. But the reaction online tells it.
It seems like she could be on the Sarah Ferguson path.
She always looks good. She always survives. You never see a moment of weakness.
Right.
In public. I mean, Meghan is a consummate survival actress.
Different story. Commentators and everyday viewers alike have picked apart the segment frame by frame, with many arguing the appearance felt less like a genuine hobby moment and more like a rehearsed extension of her personal brand strategy. Critics point to specific things: camera angles that seemed pre-planned, phrasing that echo.
What mother or father in the name of sweet Jesus has enough time to create a fruit plate at 6 o'clock on a Monday morning when there's toast throwing around the room? And her kitchen was just sterile and awful, and I hate her. I'm so sorry, I really do.
Her lifestyle brand's marketing copy almost word for word, and an overall polish that felt at odds with just a home cook having fun framing the segment was going for. Again, it's worth saying plainly: cooking on a food show while also running a food and lifestyle brand isn't inherently deceptive.
Everything she touches turns to shit. And I think every sort of creative person behind her or deep pocket behind her knows it's an extraordinary risk. She's too toxic to touch.
Figures who cross-promote constantly. But because this comes on the heels of the broader, carefully managed narrative theory building around her, even a fairly ordinary appearance gets read through a more skeptical lens than it might have 5 years ago. That's really the core of what's happened here. The benefit of the doubt has run out for a lot of viewers.
Journalistic integrity was absolutely shot to shit. It's the best way I can explain it. It was shocking. Even that bit, were you silent or were you silenced? For Meghan to say the latter, who silenced you? How did they silence you? Are you saying the royal family got an NDA? Did they threaten you? How could they stop you speaking? Because I tell you what, you didn't stop speaking the entire time you were in the royal family, so how is it they now managed to silence you?
Where audiences in 2021 were inclined to interpret ambiguous moments generously, audiences in 2026 are inclined to interpret them skeptically. Same behavior, different reaction. Because trust, once spent, is expensive to rebuild. Now contrast all of this with the approach taken by...
If you want to keep your privacy, then don't go out. If you want to go to a restaurant and you want to have, you're having out to dinner with Stedman, and Stedman was like, why people are coming up all the time, then let's stay home and eat. And so that has been my approach. Very different, though, I think, than being royalty or being even a movie star.
The rest of the British royal family. Throughout the entire saga, the interview, the docuseries, the memoir, the palace's public response has been almost entirely silence. No tell-all rebuttals, no competing interviews, no public score settling. Commentators increasingly argue this...
She's an incredibly unpleasant woman. The children don't need anything. They're little kids. They don't even know who their grandfather is, or either grandfathers, actually. And they don't need how to be royal people. So let's leave it. Let them have their own lives.
Restraint has aged well. By not engaging directly, the working royals arguably avoided feeding the same media cycle. And in doing so, some critics suggest they preserved a sense of institutional dignity that the Sussexes' more media-forward approach has struggled to maintain. Of course, that's one interpretation.
If you marry a prince doesn't mean you can become a lifestyle guru. She really thought in a way she could just sort of, rock up and become the new Martha Stewart. And the problem is she's inauthentic, and people have to like you to want to go into your TV kitchen or your mate's kitchen or whatever it is.
Others argue the palace's silence isn't dignity so much as institutional discipline and force from above. Royals are simply not permitted to freelance their grievances to the press the way private citizens can. Both readings have merit. And it's worth remembering the two sides aren't actually operating under the same rules.
That people do with pineapple, instead of just cutting it to make the perfect little bite, you follow the wedge. When nature has given you all the cues on how to have a perfect taste of something.
Oh, how fun is that? I love it.
I like working hard.
This woman is being paid millions of dollars to show how to cut into a pineapple.
So where does that leave us? An interview once framed as a moment of raw truth-telling is now, for a growing number of viewers, seen as the opening move in a longer brand strategy, one that's delivered mixed results, strained trust, and even seems to be making its original architect a little uneasy. Whether that reading is...
It was an absolute resounding beating. It was thrown out, and the judge was almost annoyed that this had got as far as it had. People were perplexed. When Harry started this, when he went after the Daily Mail, this was for stories a long time ago. Talk about holding a grudge. Talk about not being able to move on. Him and Meghan present themselves as happier than ever, living in Montecito, and here's Harry, still fighting battles from decades ago. So nobody really understood why he was doing this. I know from my sources he was advised not to do this. Any reputable lawyer that he spoke to in London would tell him this is almost impossible to prove and hence to win.
Fair is genuinely up for debate. Public perception isn't the same thing as proof. But perception is what shapes headlines, streaming numbers, and reputations. And right now, the tide has clearly turned. What do you think? Was the 2021 interview a genuine moment, a calculated one, or somewhere in between? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe. Spotlight Wars is just getting started.